crisis. There's no excuse. You've been loosed.
This is From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Each week, Janice shares her wisdom to enlighten, educate, and advance the culture in America today. Janice Pons is a mother, author, and free thinker, and your host for our podcast this evening. Now let's join your host, Janice Pons.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Come on in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Janice Pons. I am the host on our podcast, From Destruction to Dignity. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so thrilled to come here every week as we continue to just dissect things. We go all the way in, so we're going to dive in because we've got a lot going on. We got our flag behind us that represents our great nation. We have our presidential seal that represents our executive branch of our government. We have a legislative branch. We need to continue to pray for one another because we just simply want America to do well. Y'all know my heart. So tonight we're going to examine something that's generated a lot of discussion, and we're going to talk about the separation of the wheat and the tares. And our clinical perspective is the line in the sand. Now, guys, let's dive in. I used to lament about all that I saw the Democratic Party doing. I did. You know I'm political, so let's go there. The history is staggering. Over time, I began to get a revelation, though, guys. God can use whatever and whoever he desires to separate the wheat from the tares. That's on him. He wants a clear separation of evil from good. God does not want us to have any excuses whatsoever about discerning and differentiating evil from good. None whatsoever. Oh, no. He wants that thing so clear that we will know exactly what we are aligning ourselves with. So, this was when I began to shift and thank God for Barack Hussein Obama. He began a process that ended up being destructive through the Democratic Party that was very unique, that went to an entirely other level that was deep, and it got deeper each year. And he's still involved with this deepness. Now, he continues his perpetration today. He knew about the fraudulent scams and the money laundering fronts perpetrated through the stimulus packet, Obamacare, COVID-19, USAID, and the illegal immigration. Then we have this dynamic called the squad that showed up. They took things to an entirely other level. Their promotion of the Democratic Socialist Party. They want to get rid of these parties. They want the Democratic Socialist Party that would totally destroy America. That's what they want. That's the goal that would set us up as a Marxist socialist regime. And all of these things work in tandem. They do. All of them spend their efforts towards identity politics and not issues. They do not want solutions. In fact, they are masters at creating problems. They create chaos and confusion, driven by what? Deceitfulness. Many of the celebrities that support them are off the chain as they support confusion and they promote confusion, idolatry, and ungodliness. Their agendas, it is what it is, and I could give example after example, and we already know. It's so clear, 1 Corinthians 14:33, and it really is our spiritual perspective. It states that God is not the author of confusion, but the author of peace. I couldn't understand why God would allow such an unscrupulous man that glorified the dismembering, burning, and liquefying of our tiny citizens. Why would he allow him to just come forth? When he was a senator, he was behind this Born Alive Protection Act, that he said it was okay for them to be in soil utility closets and expire. That just blew me away. When I found that out, I was like, wow. So I knew that he was ignoring basic principles of faith to rule and reign for 8 years. He came across as so smooth, He had a swagger, and he had a rhythm. But guys, he had a specific agenda. Hear me out here. He voted, like I said, that it was okay to leave babies who were alive in soiled utility closets to expire. That was going on in Chicago, in Illinois, virtually ignoring what? Their 14th Amendment constitutional rights. Infanticide is a part of their platform, and they want us to pay for it. They even had an abortion truck at their national convention. Guys, that's demonic. That's a culture of death. Under Obama's administration, and see, why am I talking about it? Because he's still involved. He's still involved. He's still involved. Under his administration, he set the tone for continual hostility shown towards people of biblical faith, hostility towards people in the military who were Christians. They couldn't even have a scripture on their desk. Oh, yeah. And an overall hostility towards biblical values. I followed all of this stuff as it was unfolding, and I was like, oh, that's interesting to note. There was preferential treatment and promotion of other religions, and that was prevalent. It was example after example after example that backs up what I'm saying. And I followed all of it as it was unfolding. Now, as I was looking back, retrospectively processing all of this, I began to just embrace God's wisdom and his plan and how amazing it is. Guys, our Heavenly Father has exposed totally what the Democratic Party has been pushing and what it's been all about and what they really believe. He exposed the core of their heart and soul, in other words, their platform and their agenda, and this process continues from slavery to sharecropping to Jim Crow to welfare up to the diabolical agendas that they're pushing today. The picture couldn't be more clear. And then they got the nerve to tell us the party switch, the party switch. And let's look at that. What did the Democrat Party switch from back then to now? What was the Republican Party standing for back then, and what do they stand for now? And so you say this silly statement about the party switch from what to what for both of them. Let me move on. Christians that still support and promote that party, even after their Antichrist agenda, guys, those folk are without excuse. They openly booed God at their convention on 3 separate voice votes on the amendment that restored a mention of God in their platform. They booed it. It's crystal clear. Boo! Boo! They booed God. It's crystal clear. No one has an excuse. You don't have an excuse. Alignment matters, my friends. Alignment matters, my fellow Americans. Some people just can't seem to get over the fact that Obama's no longer the president. They want him to be in charge all the time, and he gives their marching orders. Although he operates a shadow government even as we speak. Why? He's still involved. He's still involved. Oh, yeah. His team, even after he left office, advised Iranian officials after he left the White House. They're the #1 sponsor of terrorism in the world. Why would they be advising them? He and his wife perpetrate division. Michelle's always comparing black, white. She even said that black folks shouldn't go to white businesses. My God. I'll let that sit right there. He is the ringleader of the Obama-Biden-Harris cabal. Who would have ever thought that we would leave billions of dollars of our military equipment in the hands of terrorists in Afghanistan? One thing that God clearly spoke to me related to Obama is this, and I want you to lean in and hear me because I heard it straight from heaven. It's like he put me under arrest and said it. I was like, wow. Oh, wow. I totally get it, God. He said he was allowed to be in office. When he said this to me, I was like, wow. He was allowed to be in office to help many people come to the end of themselves. I will say it again. He was allowed to be in office to help many people come to the end of themselves. Listen, guys, listen to me. I'm not cutting any corners here. The idolatry of race is real, and it clouds one's perspective and their vision. When this happens, they locate themselves. They just do. Pray for America and for our fellow Americans, guys. Guys, God's in control, but people have to make some choices. People have to make choices. They have to realize that the mainstream media is the propaganda machine of politics to keep us manipulated, deceived, divided, and controlled. And I refuse to give them my mind. God told me to stop looking at the mainstream media 6 years ago. I'm not giving them my mind. Obama ordered Trump Towers to be wiretapped. He was the one behind the Russian hoax. I think we spent, $32 million on that fiasco, wasting our money. It was all a part, it was a hoax. It was all to keep us distracted. All of this is a part of orchestrated lawfare. This was prior to President Trump accomplishing many things that no other president had accomplished in their entire time in office. Our public schools changed into indoctrination camps, teaching children how to engage in dangerous sexual techniques, such as what to do with their fist, thanks to Obama's safe school czar, Kevin Jennings, and he was part of fundamentally transforming this nation through our public schools. He wrote in the book Queering Elementary Education in 1999 that he wanted to start a saturation process in the minds of kindergartners related to homosexuality. Oh, you talking about my fellow Americans that I love? Oh, but you want to focus it on kindergartners. Why? Why are you focusing on children, Kevin? But Obama, 10 years later, appointed him as safe school czar. That was his position in 99, and in 2009, he was a safe school czar. Where did the curriculums come from, guys? GLEN, Gay Lesbian Education Network. They've added an S to it. Go look it up. Go look it up. And the curriculums. And then you had parents showing up at Board of Education meetings, reading these books that were right there in the libraries and right there in the classrooms, and they were escorted out, and Joe Biden and that whole administration call them domestic terrorists. Let me move on. Leaders of BLM, we're talking about separation of the wheat and the tares. And then our clinical perspective is the line is drawn in the sand. The line's drawn in the sand. Leaders of Black Lives Matter ended up calling for statues of Jesus to be torn down and for Christian churches to be burned to the ground. Go look this stuff up. I'm not making this stuff up. They tore down Frederick Douglass's statue. They called for the dismantling of the nuclear family. The women that started, they were women that their choice for their sexuality, they were lesbians. And they used to bash men. Okay, well, that's what they did. I'm just talking about the truth of what went on. So they were dismantling the nuclear family as being a man and a woman in a home. And then we came out with this terminology that they were telling black folk, I'm talking about what was going on, and they said, gay is the new black. Oh, really? Gay is the new black. Separation of the wheat and the tares. They wanted to defend the police. They bragged about being trained Marxists. Bragging. Oh, thanks for letting us know. They burned businesses to the ground. And in the midst of all of their mayhem, guys, 42 Americans lost their lives. 42. And based upon what I could find out, there were 3 cases that there was any accountability of those precious people. Is the picture clear yet? What does one need to see to come out from among them? The separation of the wheat and the tares. Do I need to say anything else to people who have been in stark denial? D-E-N-I-A-L. Don't even notice I am lying. D for don't, E for even, N for notice, I for I, A for am, lying, denial. Don't even notice I am lying. What would happen if we got out of denial? What would happen? That's what I want to know. This provokes thought regarding our clinical perspective. Putting a line in the sand, more commonly called drawing a line of demarcation in the sand. What does that mean? Setting a strict limit, boundary, or final condition that you will not cross or allow others to cross. It creates a clear choice where crossing the boundary leads to a definite action, consequence, or an end. To set a firm boundary involves identifying your core limits. Do you know your core limits, guys? You can state them clearly without over-explaining. It is what it is. And enforcing consistent consequences when they are crossed. What would happen if we focused on controlling our own responses rather than trying to change other people's behavior? Our own responses. What would happen if we defined and know our own limits? What would happen if we find out what our triggers are? Notice what makes us feel angry or drained or disrespected. And be able to say, hold on, whoa. Right now, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable. And being able to be assertive, I feel and I prefer. I feel and I prefer. We don't have to be verbally aggressive. We don't have to be passive. We don't have to be passive aggressive. Passive, we shut down at the one that's really doing it, but we're aggressive towards something or someone else. We don't have to be aggressive. We can be assertive. You say what you feel and what you prefer. But you got to know your triggers. You feel angry, you feel drained, you feel disrespected. Can you say it in a respectful way and say what you need, what you prefer? What would happen if we picked our hard rules and decided, it's like, wait, this is my line. That's my line right there. And decide what you will never accept or do. Yeah, having some absolute no's. That's how you get free. That's the separation of the wheat and the tares. Nobody can come in and ramrod something over you, take over your being. Why? You have strong boundaries. I had to learn this stuff. What would happen if we write them down? And I'm going to say right here, sometimes you need to go through the therapeutic process because your boundaries have been so violated. You don't even know what you don't even know. You don't know. Ask me how I know this stuff. I took myself to task on it all because I needed to know. And it helped me to separate the wheat and the tares in my life and my mind, my will, my soul, my mind, my will, my emotions, my intellect, my drive, and my desire. Oh, yeah. We're talking about growing up, separating the wheat from the tares. We're talking about line in the sand. What would happen if we write these things down? What would happen if we speak up clearly? You know, the word no is kind of short. I remember when God said, tell them this. What is it that you don't understand, the N or the O? Because you keep they just kept pushing the envelope. And I just said, let me just ask you, I want to respectfully ask you a question. What is it that you don't understand, the N or the O? I'm sorry. Oh, I accept your apology. See, it'd be easy to go, well, that's all right. That's it. You don't need to apologize. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Because they were ramrodding my boundaries. No. That won't work for me. Or I'm not available without adding a long excuse or apology? What would happen if we avoid over-explaining? Could it be that giving too many details invites other people to debate or try to change your mind? What would happen if we talking about line in the sand, we talking about separating wheat from the tares? What would happen if we use direct words such as, well, I will not, or I choose not, instead of weak language? I've gotten strong with my language. I'm very respectful, but I'm direct. What would happen if we plan what we would do if that line is crossed, such as leaving the room or ending a call? You know what? I need to get off the phone right now. Oh, you know what? I need to excuse myself from this room. Well, no, and you don't have to say why. You just leave. These are bold. This is hard for some people. Sometimes you need a professional counselor, a therapeutic relationship to help you dissect these things and how to do it. You do. And recovery support groups comes in so powerful. You've been so ramrodded and walked over, you don't even know how to stand up for yourself. What would happen if we say, I'm going to learn to be consistent, and we stay consistent, learning how not to back down or give second chances that invite the behavior back. Just open up the door again. Guys, this is tough stuff for some people, especially when you've been violated. This is why I'm such a proponent of the therapeutic process. I am. You can go to JanicePons.com to my website and go to the resource page, and you can type in where you're from, and it'll help you get a therapist. It's already there. It's powerful what can happen when you engage in a therapeutic process. Some people need it. What would happen if we let actions speak? If someone ignores your words, use your behavior to protect your peace by stepping away. Guys, what have we looked at tonight? Separation of the wheat and the tares. Clinical perspectives, line in the sand. If I say it once, I'll say it again. We're one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The enemy of our soul wants to fight us tooth and nail over us forming a more perfect union, which means simply us flowing together as one. That's what I'm all about. I know we're full of greatness. God is not done with America. I'm here, you're here, we're here, and we've got something to say. We've got something to do. I'm going somewhere. It's expecting me when I get there. You can come and go with me. We can come and go together. A lot of us are already out the gate running, and we got a lot to stand up for, if for nothing else, the posterity of this nation. So that's why I come over here and dissect these things. I'm going to keep dissecting them because we need to know. We need to know what's going on. Guys, we got so much going on. We got an election coming up in November. We've got a presidential election coming up in 2028. There's a lot on the line. So we're going to keep coming back, because this thing is worth us understanding and dissecting. I want to thank the ones again from the 12 countries around the world that download the podcast. God bless you guys. Pray for us in America. We need America to be the best we can be, and you need to be the best you can be in your country as well. Guys, I will see you all next week. God bless you. I love you guys, and I'll see you soon. See you next week. Good night.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Janice's mission is to provoke thought, bring awareness, and point people towards intervention when needed. As a reminder, this show is not therapy, but for educational purposes only. For more information, check out JanicePons.com or follow her on social media.
We are one power, strength is ours, liberty, been set free, education, affirmation, dedication, information, revelation.